I'm Danielle Nunes-Fein of FEIN Collections. Welcome this evening to this amazing talk for John Klukas's new exhibit, Nostalgia Commitments. He is here with his wife, Nu, and baby girl, Mali, from Bangkok, hence the good weather. So let's welcome John and Nu and Mali. Yeah. They split their time between New York and Thailand, which is incredible. So before I met John, he was already an artistic and art historical sensation to me. Always pushing boundaries. He was always heroic to me, stunning, groundbreaking works. And he'd already been showing internationally before we met in about the 2010s in New York. So he continues to just keep pushing boundaries. And that's completely evident in this new work, which is actually being revealed, these 18 new works, for the first time to the world this evening. So, pretty precious moment it is right now. We always maintained a friendship and wanted to work together. I've studied his work and its progression throughout the years, and it is with great admiration and respect that I'm able to reveal these 18 works tonight. To see our collaboration just come to fruition today is an honor and a privilege. So perhaps, John, you can start off by speaking about your impetus or inspiration behind the exhibit and its title, your processes, and how you make your conceptualizations materializations.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, now you can.
Thank you, Danielle.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for coming out this evening. And a big thank you to everyone that's helped make this a reality, because it's obviously been a lot of work and a lot of people have been involved. And we made it happen super quickly because it needed to, because I just had a child, so. Kind of took up.
I believe Nu was involved in that too.
She was.
Yeah.
She maybe did most of it, but still, it felt difficult for me too. So. But yeah, so thank you all for coming. Nostalgia Commitments was like the idea sort of just came to me while I think I was sitting on a train in Japan. It's like going someplace, and I jotted it down. I was like, I really like that title, and there's kind of like a weird balance there, but it was several more years before I had really time to develop it. And the way that I've kind of been thinking about it is, when we usually think about the idea of nostalgia, we think about perhaps a longing or pain for the past, right? Like a certain memory, a certain time, a certain scent, a certain thing like that. Kind of what I put forward in this exhibition is that this nostalgia, or what I'm talking about when I'm talking about nostalgia here, is actually a longing for a previous version of ourselves, an inaccessible version of ourselves. Even if we were able to restore the previous circumstances because of what we've experienced since then, we'd never be able to return to that state, that moment, that whatever. So I think of these things as time being more discrete and less linear, because we can't actually, because of the one-way direction that we have to experience it. So that's kind of where the nostalgia is. The nostalgia is coming back to things. And I think a lot of that has to do with desires and trying to bring these things into our lives. And I think of the other pole as commitments. And that's once we bring these things into our lives, we're tasked with maintaining them. We're tasked with kind of keeping it going, keeping the momentum going. And so those are two very different, it's a very different skill set involved in maintaining things rather than just desiring or working towards things. And so I kind of think of these two poles as two kind of guiding forces, and they seem to, the balance of them seems to steer the course of my life in a big way. And I think it's useful to kind of put things in this kind of paradigm. and to kind of think of these things as like, is this a period of wanting? Is this a period of like desire? Is this a period of commitments? And like, what in the future will I be looking back on as like, that was that moment, that desire, that thing that I wanted then? That will be a future commitment, you know, and how will I look back on this? So I think that was generally what I was trying to talk about with this exhibition. And how that's kind of like shown up in process is you'll see these things were taken primarily as like one exposure, but with multiple flashes of light. Because I wanted to basically present an overall picture, but I wanted to preserve it having these discrete states kind of present in the image. And so that's kind of like how I came up with the philosophical part, kind of determined how I actually built the show and built the images and like kind of shot them. I think historically speaking, like the work of Edward Muybridge was obviously one of the first people to do it. What was it? Animal locomotion, I think is what he called it, was the horse that was kind of like stopped in midair and was based on a couple of rich guys betting on if all four hooves lift the ground at the same time or not. And I always really loved like his series. Like they're kind of weird. It was the first time that somebody was able to cover motion in that way, sort of, and it was kind of like proto-film, like motion picture. But it was always really cool to be able to take a body in motion and stop it and be able to study it that way. And I really wanted to like take the body in motion and be able to stop it and study it in that way. And so those are kind of the ideas that I was like primarily working with for this project. There's one kind of other final idea, and that's kind of in the one-of-a-kind pieces, which are kind of like in an amalgam of painting and photography and other stuff. And that was kind of like this idea of decay. And so like the process in those is kind of unpredictable, and things are kind of like not sticking and kind of falling apart and kind of coming apart and coming together. And it's the same process mapped onto it. It still has the aspects of time involved. It still has these like little discrete states and stuff, but I wanted to also bring that kind of in, like I suppose the Japanese would kind of think of it as like a little wabi-sabi thing, as stuff kind of like, you know, there's a beauty in the decay. And so I've always had a very romantic idea about that. And so I wanted to, you know, I wanted a lot for the show, but I wanted to bring that kind of into the discussion as well. And so basically, yeah, so nostalgia commitments is just, I mean, I think more so than some of my other shows, I think this one is more like about just where I'm at right now, you know?